I thought about how should I use a few minutes attributed to me, and I thought that I will not share with you experience, Polish jazz experience, but rather that I would like to formulate a few thoughts about the validity of the comparison of our region with the South Mediterranean and the Near East, because this is very interesting. Why? Why should we compare? This is not obvious, and I would like also to show what are the limits of the comparison possible from my limited knowledge point of view. Although last 3 months I am learning a lot, but still my knowledge is very limited. First, I'm reading many articles about changes in Arabic countries. I found comparisons, different comparisons to historical events. I'll just mention some of them because this is just interesting how different they are. Not only 89, which was the first comparison. Why 89? I think that fundamentally just because it was the big really event, geopolitical, political, social event of this generation. So everybody remembers it. And also because it was peaceful, and especially in Tunisia and in Egypt, if there was a violence, it was only on the side of authorities, old authorities. That the democratic movement was peaceful one, pacific one, so resembling very much what we knew from our region. But there were in the literature, very large literature, these movements were compared to French Revolution, demands for bread transformed into demands for representation. Afterwards, 1848, minister mentioned it, the spring of the nations, European spring of the nation with a rather authoritarian end, but still, what is the similarity? This is sort of this chain process in 89 and also in 1848. It was chain process from one country to another country, from one nation to another nations. Afterwards, the comparisons are to the events which are not very well known in Europe. For example, I found to 1816. This is the problem of revolts against Ottoman Empire. It was regional, very important events which implied many nations of the region. But also in the same order of comparisons, then Nasser, the coup d'etat of Nasser of 52, and also the effects in many other countries, Arabic countries and nations. Comparisons which are very often we can meet. This is not very optimistic one. This is 1979. This is the revolution in Iran. And after half a year of democratic development, the transformation of Iran in the republic we know. And so now, so you see that there is already, if I can say so, epistemological problem. That there is so many comparisons possible. It shows already how complex this phenomenon is and how difficult it is to describe. Probably it's too early to describe that only post factum we would know what was this revolution about, what were the real transformative changes. So a few points about what I found common and different in 89 in our countries and in Arab countries of today. Common, this, I mentioned already, this is chain process, that this is not just about one country, that this is several countries. Afterwards, that this is democratic demands are dignity, democracy, freedom. Those are common. But what is already very interesting, and I will come to Europe, that Europe is not mentioned, and Western tradition of human rights practically is not mentioned. It comes from those countries, from down. This is not at all imported product. The third, this is, well, I mentioned the fundamental peaceful development, at least in two countries. The fourth, very ambiguous one, this is peripheric characters of the countries in both regions. Our peripheric position is very different than the Mediterranean or Near East, but the problem of certain ambiguity towards the central countries of Europe and in Arabic countries, this is also ambiguous attitudes because of colonial past. and not only far away past, but also in our countries quite often there is certain ambiguous attitudes in the part of the population towards European Union, towards United States. So it's very limited comparison, but still possible. And the last point I will mention, this is the problem of dealing with the past. Any revolutions, this implies discontinuity and pose the dramatic problem, what to do with the people of ancien regime, what to do with the crimes. What to do with the crimes, this is relatively easy. They should be condemned, legally condemned. But what to do with the people who belong to the elites of those countries? This is a very complex problem which was not solved in our countries, even in those countries where the most radical measures were applied in East Germany or in Czech Republic. We cannot say that the problem really was solved. You cannot change the past. And this is practically the problem, how to change the past. And afterwards, there is a political problem, which is very important, that at least morally condemn the people. This is, of course, problem of moral justice. This is problem of legal justice implied also. We should do something with the people responsible with the past. But there is the problem of cohesion of the people. If we want to transform, to build the new nation, in the same time, we rather try to assure cohesion. Now the differences, very quickly. Or fundamental fact which was not mentioned yet, but quite amazingly for me, that our countries were dependent upon the Soviet Union. This is not our national movement which was a fundamental fact which contributed to the changes, but it was the composition of Soviet Union and also the changes Gorbachev was trying to introduce, hoping to reform Soviet Union. He contributed to destroy Soviet Union. But without this, even such a mass movement as in Poland, it's highly improbable that in one generation that radical changes we knew would have been possible. Without those changes of the Union. And the countries, of course, of Mediterranean, South Mediterranean and Middle East, those countries are independent, sovereign countries. Another way how they are using this sovereignty. And the problem of their economic dependency, those are different problems. But politically, they are sovereign. And their dictators were really their dictators. They were not imposed by Moscow or by Washington or by anybody else, even if Washington was supporting Mubarak and others for geopolitical reasons and being afraid of fundamentalists. So this national dimension is very... The second factor which is very important, the changes in our countries were much more radical than those I hope will take place in new countries, because it was total transformation of economic system as well. We had planned economy. It was not planned economy. It was controlled from the top economy. And we had to transform it in market-type economy. Or you can have in all countries underdeveloped economy. But this is more or less market-type economy. You don't need such a major radical transformation. But it implies very important fact. There is a trade-off, problem of political change and economic change. If you, it's very difficult to, in the same time, to introduce democratization and economic transformation into market system, because transformation into market system implies that big part of the population is unhappy. There is rising of unemployment, which didn't exist in communist systems. So, and in democratic system, those forces, they can organize themselves. So democracy can be paradoxically the problem in realizing the program of economic transformation. Those problems were solved because legitimacy of new power was very strong, but till today we have problems. This problem of contradiction is very deep, or your problem fundamental, this is political problem, and you have major problems we didn't know, we didn't have. This is the problem of religion and of democratic policy in the sense of liberal democracy. This is, we don't know yet, and I'm afraid nobody knows yet, what will be the solution, what will be the compromise between religious community and political. Yes, I'm very sorry. Well, you told me that I should finish, and I feel I should finish. I can do it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your understanding. Well, I mean, you said in the beginning you wouldn't talk about the experience, but you did. I think so. It was very, very useful. So it was, yes. Anyway, so now we can move to the real thing, actually, not to history, but to what's happening in the Middle East. It's Mr. Tawfiq Wans from Tunisia, and I just want to make one remark about Tunisia, which I don't know very well. I've been there 2 or 3 times as a tourist, but that's not something that I would claim. I mean, good Americans would write a book about after one visit, but I don't claim I know the country. But Tunisia is one of the places where the theory that the Arab countries have no history and are not ripe for democracy because they have no experience, I think is the living example that it's not true. Has a history which is much more ancient than most of our country's history, and it has contributed largely to our development. So I think we have a country which has best chances to make the transition, and I hope Mr. Kwan will tell us about what they think we should be concentrating on together in sharing our experience. So. Please.
Thank you. It works?
Yes.
Thank you.